Well, hello. So an impromptu stream. We haven't done this in a while, Jeremy.
It's a saucy day, though, Rob.
It's exciting
lots
times.
to talk about.
You know what's funny is I thought I heard it was going to be on the 4th. So it's cool that we got it a day early. So I'm very excited to talk Twilight Kin.
The Twilight Kin.
The all too early reaction, right? Like
either incredibly bad or incredibly overpowered Twilight Kid.
Depends on who you listen to. Yeah. You know, is it like math where -1 and +1 equals 0?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? It's like the mystery of the universe.
Yeah. We'll have to get this guy on because Andy thinks these are the greatest things since sliced bread.
Yeah, he's a big fan.
Oh,
hard eye emojis happening.
Exactly. I did try to reach out to him, see if he wanted to come on the stream, but he doesn't listen to his DMs. So, you know, it is what it is.
His loss.
Exactly. Well, we do have an episode coming out Wednesday where we are kind of getting caught up because it's been a while since we did a real deep hobby. And I would say the whole episode is one big hobby dive.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's about 45 minutes and then like maybe 10 minutes of movie and TV chat.
Yeah, and majority of just like, what are you painting or what are you up to? Yeah. What are you buying with your copious amounts of hobby funds?
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that because that's a very good lead into this is what I have been doing lately is action figures. It seems like every day there's just 5 more showing up. So Firefight. Yeah, love Firefight. So this has got to be Tyler, right? Dread Path Zone. Only he would be so bold, right? To put Firefight on there.
He needs to make more videos.
Yeah.
He's slacking.
Who's this guy? I haven't seen this guy in months.
We all know who the real bad guy is.
Absolutely. So yeah, this was taking a big portion of my time. Every day freaking action figures are showing up and I'm having to shuffle them up.
I only have one question though. It goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 8.
So the ones that are missing are down below because they're bigger sizes. So like there's bikes and there's vehicles.
Oh, okay. So you own everyone.
I own everyone.
You have all of them.
Okay, it's called the Double Up Club. So I have one in box, one loose of everything. And then for some of the other ones, like
you have the just in case.
Well, I have extra like alley vipers because they're just badass. You know.
Yeah. That's so awesome, man.
Yeah. It's fun. Well, let me I guess we should also segue into what else have I been working on? Well, we got the Michigan GT. Well, we got some great. So we got Chase down there in southern Mississippi.
Welcome.
I assume he's still painting Ratkin. That's all he does, I think. And then we got Tyler is actually saying he's editing an episode right now. Well, that would be good because hot
off the press. Nothing better than a Dreadpath Zone video is a fresh, still warm.
Zone video. Absolutely. We got Michigan GT though, and we talk a little bit about. Well, we talk a lot about it on the show, but I have been all in on the salamanders, and I don't want to share it, but I'm going to share it with the audience here. I'm not putting it on social media until after the event, but I will share with you guys what I've been working on. So Jeremy already knows. I had this harebrained idea that I was going to build this custom cart, and I was going to take the display board and the army presentation from like a 7 to like an 11. So that's what I did. So let's go. So this is the new. Oh, should I take this off here? All right. So this is the new army and display board. So
very cool.
I'm pretty happy with it. It came out a lot. It came out pretty good, all things considered. I had a streaming cart that I cannibalized some of the pieces and still ended up having to go buy a bunch of stuff. But it came out pretty good. Let me get to the next picture here. Kind of see this, and then let's go one more. And so that's what she looks like. Now, right now it's 24 inches by 18 inches deep. I've got another 6 inches at the front. That'll be phase 3. So
okay.
Adepticon, it was phase 1. It was phase 1. And yeah, I know, Andy. I know. I only have 2 Phoenixes, right? Yeah. But phase 1 was just the board, right? This time it's the board, a bunch of new units, and a lot of trees. And then phase 3, which will happen at some point in the near future. I'm looking for a wharf, like to come off, or a dock to come off the front. And you know what I thought about? At some point, they're going to put the Salamander Armada fleet on the vault.
Oh, gotta turn that size up a little bit.
I think so. I think so.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm thinking I need a Corsair unit built into a ship. Now, my problem is it might not all fit, so it might just be the back end of the ship. I'm not sure yet. But I've been doing the math. I'm doing the math, and I'm thinking about it. Yeah. So I just I'm still working on the name of the army. So if anybody has any good suggestions, please throw them out there. I have some very bad ideas so far. First one that came to me was Tyrant Town, right? Because when Kat was on, she said, "Welcome to Tyrant Town," which just cracked everybody up. And I do have the master himself has shown up.
Yeah.
Awesome. So she said, "Hey, welcome to Tyrant Town." So I thought, well, maybe we'll call this army the Tyrant Town or Tyrant Town. That was one thing I was thinking. Then I was thinking, like, maybe Ember Isle. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with a name for a city or an island. This is a nautical area. It's a wharf. It's a city. It's a I mean, for those who don't know, the Salamander fleet is the Salamander army. They're basically like pirate hunters. They're like the British, right? Hunting pirates and stuff. And their job is to protect the island of the Three Kings, but they hunt pirates. They hunt the slaver ships from the Twilight kin. They hunt the EOD, the Empire of Dust stuff. So I'm just trying to think how to get into that nautical spirit. And obviously Corsairs down the road will definitely be next for me. So
yeah, and I know we talked about it on the show that's coming out manana, but I love all your scatter terrain placement, like all the trees and rocks you added. The palm trees really made a big difference on adding life to the display board.
Exactly. Oh, and Andy finally says, so for those that may have missed it, Andy challenged Adam Ballard this weekend for game 1 at the Michigan GT. But his challenge game, or his grudge game, depending on how you want to describe it, was very weak, like embarrassingly weak. So we're hoping
he was shamed into something.
Well, actually, I think Adam basically said, why would I even take this guy's challenge? He's a chump. I mean, he didn't even come with any heat. So we'll see what he presents. His excuse was he didn't have anybody to hold the camera. Right?
Okay.
I'm like, okay, dude. Come on, bro. In a day and age with selfie sticks and tripods.
Those are rookie numbers. Come on.
Yeah, you gotta pump that up. Well, I'll just ask the audience, what's the over-under? So I think I'm pretty sure he went 4-0-1, so 4 wins and a draw at best to the rest. Had a good finish. But how do you think he's gonna fare? He's playing Empire of Dust against Adam Ballard.
So that's one of his armies. So sometimes it's good to play against an army that you play all the time because theoretically how it's supposed to work, right?
Exactly.
I don't know. Adam's pretty good.
Adam's pretty good. Yeah, that's
good.
The understatement of the year, right? Understatement of the year. Well, what we're really here to do tonight is we wanted to just give our all too early initial reactions. And full disclosure, I haven't looked at the list. So you're gonna get my initial reaction, like, "Oh, it's broken," or I probably won't say that, but I'll give you my initial reactions. Obviously, Jeremy was a playtester, so he's got some experience with the list, and figured what we'll do is we'll just open up Companion and kind of walk through some of Jeremy's favorite things he wants to point out, and we'll chat about it. So, Jeremy, if you want to add it to yeah, there we go. And feel free to fire questions in the.
Let me do this again.
Yeah, feel free to fire questions if you got questions for Jeremy. Obviously, he's playtest this stuff, so he might be able to answer your question on what do you think of this, like Wicked Miasma or the Navigator.
Yeah, so I think when you're looking, I don't know how you look at a list, Rob, but when I'm first looking at a list, I'm usually looking at the infantry, or like what am I going to use to unlock That's sort of where I go first sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like to build combined arms lists, so I know that whatever I build, I'm going to have some infantry in it.
Mm-hmm.
Both model wise, it's cool to have a big horde of infantry or whatever. So I'm going to kind of present to you some things that stood out for me. One thing you guys are going to notice about the Twilight Kin list is that almost all of it's really playable, and you can play it in lots of different ways. So the way that I'm playing it, or that I've been playing it in playtesting, or that I want to play it, may not be the way that you play it, and it doesn't mean that what I'm saying is the only way you can play it. That's one thing that's cool about this list, is there's lots of different things in it that are all good. And then also keep in mind, though we're seeing the rules now, the Twilight Kin list was designed within the family of Clash of Kings. So really, if you're looking at trying to compare it against other armies, you really can't. The armies that it's compared against to are not. The updates haven't been released yet.
And Tyler with the great question, right? So yeah, I mean, what we're seeing is we're getting both sets of feedback. We got some people saying it's broken. It's totally, totally a game changer. It's going to win all the tournaments. It's going to smash face. And then you have the other people that are saying that it's underwhelming and that they're disappointing in the stats, and they don't think, they're crying about that their flyers aren't speed 10. So I think when you have that kind of reaction where you get some people saying it's broken and some people saying it's underpowered, I think that's a good sign, because I mean, what it says is no one knows yet.
Yeah, no,
Right.
so I'm gonna kind of highlight a couple things that have stood out to me, some tidbits into sort of play testing, what some of the lists that have been built. So I think when you're looking at your two main infantries, right, you have your fleet
Mhm.
wardens. That's your spear infantry, right? Uh, Phalanx. You have options to increase its nerve, crushing strength 1 elite. I'm seeing, and I'm interested to see. I know there's some lists that are developing with running multiple regiments. So in the regiment, they're 14, 16. But if you take the formation, the crew of the Heartseeker, your Impaler unit gains Inspiring Corsair. And then also, if you take the captain, where is he? The Void Captain. The Void Captain also has Rallying 1 Corsair. So when you think about it, you can get that unit up to 1618 for 120 points. A 1618 Phalanx unit that that you can also buy the Celestial War nerve. So if you go to 1517, right, with the Celestial War nerve buff, that's 5 points on a regiment. It's 150. If you get it Rally 2, all of a sudden you're what? It goes from 1517 to 1719.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's a lot of
Pretty good.
nerve. So I think you're seeing some people build some lists around maybe getting thinking about, how am I going to use that rally? Am I gonna and how am I going to build out maybe some of these really tough to deal with regiments that just have such high nerve and that can still counterpunch a little bit. I mean, 15 attacks on 3s with elite and crushing 1 is not nothing.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one thing you're seeing with the fleet wardens, which is interesting, is looking at how can you maximize the rally from the other lists. Also in conjunction with the crone that we'll talk in a second, and weakness. And then another thing maybe you're seeing, or that I'm liking, I'm running a horde of the Void Walkers, and I'm giving them all the toys. So they have Ensnare, Blood Hex, they have the 3+ melee, and then I'm giving them Hammer of Measured Force. So they end up in like 270 something, I think, in the high 200s. I really like that unit. It hits like an absolute truck. You have ways to give it. You can bring Raphael to give it stealthy. You can take a Planner Apparition. I think the Planner Apparition is amazing. And when you're looking at what do you want to put in your list, with so much units that have Ensnare or access to defense 6 big shield, being able to back it up with a Planner Apparition is super strong. But I think both these infantry are totally viable, awesome infantry options. A couple other ways I've seen people unlock is obviously taking the Impalers, right? Impalers are nice. Unlocking, take them in a horde. Dash 17 big shield. Again, when you're thinking about your access to planar apparitions, your access to weakness, you have a lot of ways to support impalers. The navigator can give them elite or a vicious aura, so then they become elite and vicious. One thing I've noticed, I've run lists with 2 and I've run lists with 3. The monstrous infantry base, I think it's too big to run 3 hordes. If you're going to want to do I want a couple of these as my center line, I think they're bigger base size, though it sometimes might be a benefit. In general, I think usually we say, the smaller the base size, the easier the maneuver. But still like a super solid unit, 18 attacks on 3s with crushing 1 and elite versus, and then you give them vicious. You don't need all that crushing for the most part. You have other ways to sort of get that damage through.
Yeah. I'm interested. They're like speed 5, but they do have the wild charge D3, right? Yeah. So I just wonder, 11 to 13 charge distance. It's a little bit on the slow side, but that's what that's what the big shield comes into play, right?
Yeah, I think it is a little bit on the slow side, but I'm thinking with big shield and then another piece which I think is going to be huge is the crone. Yeah. So let's talk about the crone, because I think this is going to be a really important piece. So the crone has Wicked Miasma, which is certain spells that normally you can roll to wound.
Yeah.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's Enthrall,
Wind Blast and
Wind Blast, Weakness, and there's one more, isn't there? Is there a fourth one?
Hex.
It's Hex as well, right? Yeah, those 4 spells. So that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
And when you think about weakness, and some of these spells don't take a cover modifier, so in many ways it's like Lightning Bolt, but better because you don't have to roll for cover. So I've been taking the triplets, as I call them. I've been running 3 crones. Like I have a whole narrative in my head, Rob, when we were talking about fluff.
Right.
The the Twilightkin are all about the void and like the non-linear time and like the universe and whatever. So the fluff that I've come up with is that like a crone who is born by themselves is, still magical power. Twin crones are a little bit more powerful because they can exist in and have be able to see time at 2 spots. Either the past and the present or the present in the future. But the most powerful crones come from sets of triplets, because between the 3 of them, they can see the past, present, and future of themselves. So I have 3 crones. They're the time triplets, and I've been running them with weakness. So it's essentially between the 3 of them, that's lightning bolt 12 essentially. Plus, you're able to supply 3 weaknesses if a lot of your army is either defense 6 or ensnare, being able to throw out those weaknesses is really, really, really good. So I think the crone is a really interesting of being able to try to, make your opponent not be able to do what they want to do is like an interesting play mechanic. So I think the crone is great. The navigator is great. I haven't played with them, but I think the void skiffs are amazing when you think about it. I know like Matt and a bunch of people are really on the skiff train, because when you think about it, they're picking up for only 10 points and you're paying the reduced point cost because it is coming out of your side arc, but you're still picking up an 8 attack piercing 1 attack for 10 points. And when you're thinking about the positioning, something can be in your side arc and you could still be facing towards them. You know what I mean? So it's not like you got to turn completely sideways and shoot at them. So I think the detriment to shooting out of your side arc, I think once players figure out how to and 3 of one thing is not spam, freaking Keith Randall. You can suck on the I have something for you. No. But yeah, so I mean, and another really interesting unit to talk about, Rob, I think that is a good thing when you're looking for unlocks, because I think in general for Twilightkin, you're going to be looking for unlocks because all the monsters and heroes are all playable.
Mhm.
I've been playing with the Void Touch Mutants is a really interesting unit.
Okay.
So this is it's on a cavalry base. Because it's heavy infantry. Speed
It's like
7.
a grotesque or something, like a big.
Yeah, it's kind of like a half Night Elf, half Reaper, like
Okay.
half Night Stalker
Okay.
amalgamation. And it's speed 7, wild charge D3. So not cav, but roughly kind of around cav speed, right? 20 attacks on 3s with elite, and Strider and Thunderous Charge 2. So very much a glass cannon. If they punch you, they're going to be doing a lot of damage. 225 points. So it's the same price as an Impaler Horde. So if you're looking at like price points for unlocks, those two units are similar at their price point level. One thing I have noticed about the Void Touch Mutants, they have that sort of troll larger nerve gap. So they waver on a 14, route on a 17. I've run them in testing both with offensive items and with giving them, taking the reduced cost of Brew of Strength or Brew of Sharpness, like that, taking that reduced cost of those items at the regiment. And I think what I found for me, those feel, and I was talking about this when I played Adam the other night, of like a win more option where they're already going to do a good amount of damage without an offensive ability. And the fact that they are still defense 4, waivers on a 14. I was playing a test game with Adam, and his skeleton spearmen did a couple of damage and wavered them. And then they were wavered for 3 turns until they died. So I've been running these more kind of thinking about them like how I ran my ogres and Basalia by giving them waiver mitigation items. So I'm running one with Dwarven Ale, one with Fury, just to make sure, because even if they lose their Thunderous, 20 attacks on 3s and you do have some access to Bane Chant with Elite, you're still going to get some damage through. So so that's sort of where I've kind of landed on these guys. A great unit. Strider is amazing, but still very fragile.
Yeah, defense 4. I mean, if you get punched. I mean, what's interesting is with the wild charge, with average dice, you're the speed of cavalry. And if you underwhelm it a little bit and roll a 1 or a 2, that's a little bit slower. Or if you roll a 5 or a 6, you're a little faster than normal cavalry. So, it's interesting because you have a lot of units in there that have the wild charge, and it feels like it's a little bit of a gambler's army because it's sort of unpredictable, right? Like you don't really know.
There's some high risk, high reward elements of the list. It doesn't tend, or some of the lists outside of maybe fleet wardens are thinking about like how do you implement chaff. Like for the impalers, I'm kind of thinking in some ways I'm going to try to remove my opponent's chaff, or their big shield is their chaff, right? Like if you're weakened and charging them with big shield, that they're going to live. But one unit I have been playing with, especially with the mutants, are the Phantoms. So this is an oldie but goodie, right? It's a unit that we know from Night Stalkers. I like it for the mutants because Phantoms are also heavy infantry. So it's the same, like heavy infantry, that cav size base is a little unique, right? When we're thinking about how do we get something that's big to chaff for it. Whereas the Bound Phantoms, they're fearless, which we love in chaff, right? They can't get wavered and hold you down. They're speed 10, so when they got to get out of the way, they can really get out of the way.
Yeah, speed 10, nimble.
Yeah, they're nimble. They also have inborn stealthy, so they're a little bit more resilient to light shooting, that chaff removal shooting.
Is it troop always for you, or do you ever?
Yeah, no, I've been taking 2 troops and essentially 2 troops, the Void Touched Mutants, and then recently I have added in Soulbane on a Nightmare, and that's kind of like a battle group. That's like a flanking battle group, right? I have my 2 mutants, which are fast, my Soulbane on a Nightmare that gives Inspiring and Dread, and then the 2 troops of Phantoms as chaff. So essentially those 5 pieces become like your kind of quick denial, like super punchy flank force. I've been loving that. I mean, the impalers are great, and so much of it. I mean, like I said, a lot the skiffs are amazing. You can take the navigator on the skiff is also really good. I was trying to find a way to upgrade my navigator, who's just on foot, to one on the skiff. On the skiff, you pay a little extra, but you get unit strength. You get a ranged
And it's what,
attack.
50 points more, it looks like, and you're getting a little more
So
speed. Your melee value goes down though when it's on the skiff. I noticed, but I guess you're not getting it for the
no, the
attack part.
skiff it goes up. So usually the navigator hits on 5s on foot.
Oh,
but on the
great. Sorry,
skiff,
I'm backwards.
scores.
I'm backwards. Right.
So it's a little fighty.
Yeah.
It can fight a little bit. You're picking up a couple attacks. I mean,
Yeah,
on
you got
foot,
4 instead
really
of 1.
yeah. On foot,
And
I'm
you have a
running
shooting attack.
Yeah. I mean, the regular navigator has icy breath, which is okay, but I'm running the navigator with loot so he can bane chant, and then that's it. And he really doesn't do much but hang out, hide behind the impalers, and give them stealthy or sneak out to give the void elf vicious. So like he'll sneak out to give my big horde vicious, or some other elements that can benefit from that keyword. Like the void touch mutants, giving them vicious can be super nasty. But taking either of the characters, either the captain on the void skiff or the navigator on the void skiff, I think are both really good options too. Like if you want to do a quicker, more like, I know Matt's a big fan of this, a more kind of like void skiff army, I think could be really good. Because when you think about it, 150 points, you're getting 16 attacks, you're getting a nice brutal, you're getting TC2, you're getting a flying nimble unit with some somewhat effective shooting. The new, I know a lot of people, I don't take it, but a lot of people are excited about the new Void Lurker. You can get the upgrade, Pride of the Dark Fleet, which gives it inspiring and increases its nerve to 1820, which that's pretty nice. An 1820 flying.
I like how
around.
narratively they've added the word bound all the Night Stalker stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because it's no longer a theme army, right? This is not a theme army of Night Stalkers. It is its own army.
Its own thing, right?
Yeah, that has some similar theme, but it's not just like here's a Void Lurker in this army. It's its own thing, right?
Well, and ironically, the timing here, we got Max K jumping on, the Halfling Master himself, and I think given all the stuff that got going, I think Halflings would be a nice counter.
And I played this list in testing. Tom Annis has been playing a lot of halflings lately. So I took out my list the other night against the halfling list that just won UK Clash of Kings. And that spell ward really is nice, especially against lists that want to plink out the weakness or plink out the damage. I think that's going to be something as a Twilight Kin player you start thinking about, especially with their access to the unit that now can cast Lightning Bolt, which I think, welcome Felix.
Hello.
Joined by the RC himself, or one of the RC.
One of very minor contributing member for the Twilight King.
Hey,
but, figure I'm here.
So. You contribute more than I do, so that's all that matters.
That's it's a little bit more, but yeah. So how's the discussion going on? We just kind of going over different parts of the list bit by bit, or
yeah, I think we're just kind of talking about spell ward maybe getting a little bit more value now in the meta once Twilight Kin are introduced. And I played some few games with the Weavers, which is sort of the new unit that you can up to 3 in your list give them Lightning Bolt,
right?
And they're I thought they were solid, they were good. The one thing I found in Twilight Kin, you are desperate for unlocks. There's a lot of heroes and monsters and cool stuff that you want to bring. So 145 point plus 25 points if you want to give it Lightning Bolt. So that like 170 points that doesn't unlock, for me, I found was just too much in a 13-16 defense 4 unit. But who knows? Maybe people will like it in where they just go heavy Mind Screech, heavy Void Bolts, take Raphael because she still has that special rule that gives she can pick a target and other spellcasters get elite against that target. I mean, I love the Weavers, but I think in playing them, there's plenty of games I played in testing where I had the 3 Lightning Bolt Weavers that roll a little bit below average that first or second turn, and then they're getting charged and chomped up, and there goes, 400 points worth of guys.
Yeah. Max got a comment here. I think the message I would say too is there's a lot of stuff that we don't know the context, right? So I think there's probably more changes coming to the other armies, and we could probably gleam a little bit from what is in this new Twilight kin list, but more to come, right? So
right.
it's
one of those like, remember when the halflings were coming out and people were like, oh my god, like what is going on? And went all crazy, not realizing that they were just sort of the heralds of what was to come in later Clash updates. And so there'll be some changes that are going to affect a bunch of other armies. And so I'd say people just, I know it's the internet, so you just need to just the quote Aaron Rodgers, RELAX, just relax, that's an American football joke for people, but it's gonna be, there's gonna be some changes with all the other armies, and so some more than others, but it's enjoy it for what it is right now. So
yeah, and the Weavers are, like I said, they're a solid list, but they are expensive and they don't unlock. So I don't know, and I know people will disagree with me, and maybe you want to say, depending on your meta, Lathael or maybe a Navigator, there might be a few things that are like you want to have in every list, but other than that, I think it's a pretty
you missed the beginning of the show. We talked about it.
We had a news update.
I'm aware of that going back and forth.
What a weak challenge. And I feel bad for him, but I also feel bad for me because he's in my club, right? Like, it's like, come on, man, you're bringing us down, bro.
Isn't he the 40K player too? Like,
you'd think. I thought all 40K players were nasty and could do challenges like on a dime, but
maybe he doesn't have the tacos to power him.
No, he needs tacos.
And one thing too, Jeremy, because you're alluding to it earlier as in like the 3 minutes I wasn't on earlier, but like you the playtesters, you're making these lists based off that, but now that it's like released to the wider community, we're really interested to see what sorts of lists people come up with.
Totally, because I think there was a bunch of, I think it's a list designed to play it a lot of different ways, but I think out of playtesting, you saw a couple sort of spheres of thought, right?
Right.
You around, I want to take the skiffs and be speed, or I want to do combined, or I'm going to really try to take advantage of the mutants and spear guys, or I want to run the triple crone weakness with impalers, So I think you saw some sort of areas that the play testers in their initial gut reaction navigated to, and then now you're going to,
pun intended,
but and and Andy, that's how most of my lists began in the beginning. But what I found was, and what was advised to me by a much better player than myself, was that's a lot of points to have between a Navigator, 3 Crones, and Lathael in units that don't score. And you have big shield and weakness in your list, but you're still elves. You're still defense 4. So at the end of the game, if you have 3 Crones, a Navigator, and Lathael, and no units to score, it can be a challenge, right? So that's why I dropped Lathael and I have the Soulbane on Nightmare as an extra scoring piece. Now, is that right? I mean, I don't know. That's why you play these games and you test them out and you try new things. But I also love the Mikael model. So if I can run that as just a regular Soulbane on a Nightmare, I can do like a head swap or whatever. Mm-hmm. Have that set up to be both Mikael or just a regular Soulbane on a Nightmare. So I think it's a cool piece model-wise that I want to have. But I do want to talk about 2 things. Let's talk about, because I think I've seen some early, just like, I've felt super filthy. The Planar Apparition and the Terror together. Oh man. In a list where you have access to so much weakness. So the Terror, 18-19, defense 4, but it's ensnare stealthy. Mm-hmm. And the Planar Apparition, Radiance of Life, heal 7. I've been running the Terror in between 2 Impaler hordes, and it's just as like a middle, it is really tough to shift. I did have Shobit come off a hill into the planner, and it lived somehow. And the next turn, it had no wounds left. They were all either regenerated or healed by the planner apparition. So
gross is what that is. It's gross.
Yeah. Great minds think alike, Kyle. So and I just got in the mail. Ooh, my terror.
I mean, the Night Stalker terror. I mean, it's good, dude. And when you back it up with the planner apparition, it's even better.
Yeah. So I've been loving that middle. I love, as I've found, I like playing like sort of reactive armies, and Twilight can have some elements of super punchy, but it also you can play it sort of like, I dare you to charge me, because once you do, I'm gonna weaken this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have all my stuff all sort of boiling in the cauldron. So I think it really does give you some interesting agency play decisions. But in the end, they're still elves. So a regiment of spearmen can waver your best unit, and then your unit's just sitting there doing nothing. So we talked about the Goldilocks band in the path, and I played this list, and I've against what are lists in today's meta, like playing them within the Clash of Kings, but playing this against what people play, and I've against good players, and I've won as many as I've lost, pretty much, which is what you would hope to see when you're playing against like high competition, that you're winning and losing. So I feel like the list is within the bandwidth of where we would want it to be, power-wise.
See, we got Mode. He doesn't have approvals to StreamYard to show his picture, but that's our buddy Mode Gaddafi out of Singapore. So we're really excited to have him on.
Like early in the morning for him.
So I'll show do you guys want to see the list that I've been running?
Absolutely.
Okay, yes. So let me pull up my actual list. Okay, not empty.
Those are rookie numbers. Look at all those.
Yeah, these are rookie numbers.
Like, I have that many lists, and I don't build lists like at all.
Yeah, and I agree with Corey. The terror is a great anchor. I mean, God help you if you put the wrong thing into it.
Right.
It's not only going to be an anchor, it's going to, an anvil up, it's going to spit you out. Don't send no infantry in there.
Yeah. Yeah, getting the Rampage 12. That's you don't want to put even cav, like just regular cav or regular infantry. You don't do that. They will not hold up as long as you think is. Wow, that is trippy. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to go off of, you guys see the list here. I was trying to share like a PDF, but it wasn't working. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna get this right. This is like a Pandora's. This is like what the void looks like, guys.
That's right.
That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Okay, so let me share my screen. When that way, it's not good encounters, which it creates 100%.
It'll be good on the mid table.
Yeah,
potentially. It's like the Scorch Wings, right? Like, yeah. I mean, it's an easier tool to use, maybe, but at the high end, you're gonna get it's gonna be difficult.
Okay, so I've been running the horde of boardwalkers with the snare nets, blood hex, reavers of the middle sea, and hammer of measured force. So 275 points. It's not cheap. But I have with weakness, with blood hex, I have some ways to make it survivable. And then ideally, when it's hitting you, it's 25 attacks on 3s with elite, wounding on 4s with vicious, no matter what you are. I've been running the 2 regiments of mutants. So with the waiver mitigation items, I'm still on the fence on whether or not you just go all in and you go full Ricky Bobby speed and give them strength and sharpness, or you give them offensive items. I don't know. I'm still sort of figuring that out. The 2 phantom troops for chaff for the mutants. 2 impaler hordes, just kind of the center of the line. Love these guys. My planner apparition, my terror. Taking a navigator with loot. Just give me an extra Bane chant. He can Bane chanting the impalers. 18 attacks on 3s with elite, 1 crushing the amount of value you're getting from that, especially with the elite reroll. It's pretty good. I take my time triplets with weakness, and then the Soulbane on a nightmare. So 14 drops. The more I play, the more I think that 13 to 15 is like the sweet spot for 2300, and then 2200 or 22 unit strength. So this is sort of what I've been playing the last 5 or 6 games. I would say is something around this sort of combined arms.
Nice.
It's fun to play.
Just looking at it, like, it's fun to play, but like, what are the types of lists that you have been like? Okay, this is this, when you start leaning forward with your controller in playing video games. What kind of lists do you have to lean forward and start getting serious on?
Okay, so Halflings actually is, I think, a good army to play against this. My version of it. My version, right. The weakness is important, not only to do weakness, but it's to do some chip damage to weaken things out, so that when my impalers or some of my other stuff fights, like the terror, if it's against infantry, it has rampage, but against everything else, it really doesn't have a lot of attacks. So I think you need to have some damage done with my version of the list. So halflings can be tough with all that spell ward. Has been kind of if I'm facing another and that may true. Hex might be an important thing again that plays out. I played some games against ogres where I get the charge, but if you underperform, since you're defense 4, that means crushing 2 is wounding on 2s.
Right.
So that makes a big difference. So I've had where I've gotten into siege breakers. I get the first charge with my mutants. I do a lot of damage, but if I bounce at all, they're dead in one go.
Right.
So I could see that too. You have to really make sure you're getting the charges you want. It still is but outside of the impalers, it still is relatively a fragile army unless you're using your ensnare, you're using your weakness. So I think you really got to think about how are all the synergies going to work together and maximize those. Because if you don't, your stuff can still die pretty quick.
So Mo had a question for us about void skiffs.
Okay, so good point. Let's say this is my void skiff, right? And it's like void skiffing on the thing. So let's say that we're looking at UB, right? And this is like my void skiff. I'm looking down at it. You think this is your arc, your shooting arc, right? So some people might think I got to go like this to shoot at you. But maybe if you have something up here, you go like this, right? Because you only need to have something barely an arc, and then you can trace your line of sight from the middle up, right? So I think that's one thing to keep in mind with void skiffs is I think people are going to get good and how do they slightly skew something to get something in its side arc. But for Value Town, I mean, look at what you're getting for 10 points. Let's look at that again for the shooting upgrade. So void skiffs, for 10 points, you're getting essentially like a troop of crossbows. You're getting 8 attacks on 4s with steady aim and piercing 1 for 10 points. I mean, value, that's pretty good. You just got to like how much are people going to get good at like using that shooting side arc? But I think it's a solid unit. Like I don't have any of them in my army, but that's not because I don't think they're good. It's because the army is filled with so much cool stuff.
I think one of the interesting things that probably needs to be played out though is because you're a long, skinny or a deep unit, and your point, you're on the side arc. You're losing a couple inches off that range, right? Because Scorch Wings, 18 inches from the front. But if you're having to pivot a little bit, you're back. So it's going to be interesting because I think what that means is you're going to have to get closer than 18 inches, right? You're going to have to get in there. The front of your unit is going to be closer than maybe you want. I don't know. It's a different way definitely a different way to play the game.
Yeah. The speed 7 is going to be interesting, especially with like when you have a regiment that size. It's kind of like the issue Whites have, right? They're speed 7. And fly, and they can fly right, but they still have to be able to clear and place without being near other units. So I imagine Void Skiffs at that lower speed, you have to be good with positioning them. But it's one of those units, I imagine, once you're good at maximizing their positioning, which i.e. I'm threatening a charge next turn and I have something to shoot, that you're going to get you're going to get a unit that's shooting that also wants to punch, or a unit that wants to punch that can also shoot.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious to see like a heavy Void Skiffed army, what that's going to be like to play against. That has like the Void Captain on the skiff, the Navigator on the skiff.
So you'll hear this in the podcast that comes out on Wednesday, but you pre-ordered your Mega Army, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, I agree with Ben. I think the how they've divvied out the stuff this go around is pretty solid. I picked up the Mega Army and then the regular army, and between those two, it pretty much. And then I think I'm going to get like the character pack, and then I got to buy some Phantoms and like my Night Terror that I just got. But other than that, it gives you pretty much. It's like a good combination of units, I think, to build something relatively solid.
Blood Hex. Talk to me about Blood Hex. I mean, seems like there's a few different units to have it, and basically you can increase your defense by +1 after giving them a movement order once per game.
Yeah, I think it's a nice little tool. Usually, I have it. I take it on my big ensnare Voidwalkers, and essentially I'm moving up, I'm healing, and then once they charge and engage and end up in the middle of the board, I'll throw it. And then hopefully if you can throw some weaknesses around what's fighting them, all of a sudden it's as if that unit is defense 6 for a smidge, right? Because it's defense 5 plus.
And Matt's got a good response here. The speed 7 may look like a liability, but that's where the Wind Blast comes into play, right? You can.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Lafayette has Wind Blast and Thrall 7 apiece. Yep. So that's not a small amount of dice. Nope. She's still amazing. The head witch, she's a bad witch, and you can do a lot of control with her, which is really good. But she's not cheap. She's you're still gonna have to pay. She's 150 points, which you have a lot in this list that you want to buy. I think, which is good. It's a good thing to have to think about. This was one of the first lists in building. I had to really think about my unlocks because I wanted to get my non-spammy, completely acceptable 3 crones with weakness. So I had to really think about, and the Navigator is so cool, and there's a lot that you want to put in the list.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good problem to have when it comes to army design. Is the whole like, man, how do I fit all the things I want into a list that's under 4,000 points?
One unit I didn't mess around with that I'm kind of unsure about is this Wrangler unit. So the Wranglers are a little bit more of a cheaper unlock. So if you're looking at what are some cheap unlocks at the regiment level, you have the Fleet Wardens at 145, the Voidwalkers at 120, and then the Wranglers are 150. So they're kind of in that sort of one of your cheaper ways to unlocks.
Right.
14, 16, 14 attack, speed 7, so it's a little bit quicker. It has stealthy because, the idea is that they're like wrangling Night Stalker duders. And it comes with a 6-inch piercing 1 steady aim shot that if the person's damaged, they're disordered. So we all know being able to just hand out disordered is really good. But is it going to be good at 6 inches of range from not a character who can move around and then Karis staff you or whatever over you? That unit I'm a little curious about seeing if it floats up. I didn't really play with it much, but again, not because I think it's bad. I just had other stuff. But I'm curious about that. And modeling wise, I think that would be a great unit to do a bunch of models, right? You could do like the elves, leading the pack of reapers or whatever you want. It could be a cool multi-base unit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when we design it. Hold on a second. Yeah, so when we were designing them, I think we had Shadow Hounds in mind. But I think because of the Shadow Hounds are resin, and then you have the Corsairs being PVC plastic. It was hard to, it really drives your prices up per bundle if you're trying to put resin and that together. So they ended up switching it over to just, either Tormentors or Reapers.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as a hint, you could probably do Shadow Hounds as well, and they look just as cool because it's just, it's all on that heavy infantry base. So,
but they're all kind of fitting a different role. Like you have your sort of get in the way and mess up your plans Wranglers. You have something that's a little bit more hitty, your Voidwalkers, and then you have your Fleet Wardens, like the general says, MSU in the regiment style, giving them the rally. I think Twilight Kin could do MSU very well. It has a lot of really interesting ways.
They've been able to do it in the past.
Right.
It's been a theme of the army before.
Yeah. I mean, dealing with, like I said, 17, 19 regiments of spears, and they're just everywhere. No matter where you look, there's just spears, rallied spears could be pretty good.
Yeah. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's Kyle brings up a good point. So they can't, basically forcing whites so they can't hop over you. Have to charge them from the front, and they can set up.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still butchers. There's still some of the other bound options. Soul flayers are still good. So I guess in testing a new Twilight Kin army, inherently you kind of want to lean towards all the new stuff, right? Outside of the Phantoms, because I think just as chaff for mutants, they just really fit that role. Right. But maybe there's some Twilight Kin builds that work really well that lean a little bit more into the bound options, like the Navigator aura for that bound stuff for the Night Stalker-esque stuff is Life Leech 2. So maybe there's something there, experimenting with that versus the Void Touch and Twilight Elf, Vicious, and or Stealthy and Spell Ward auras. Yeah, exactly. Giving the Terror Life Leech 2 seems pretty good when you have a unit with Regen 4.
Might be decent.
Yeah, maybe you just never kill that. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of the Phantom troops in this list. I think they help the list do a lot of what you want it to do. It's flying chaff that's dash. Right. I think the more my chaff gets disordered in front of crap, the more I was like, I can have chaff that's either dead or alive. You're coming with me. Sign me up.
Yeah, I saw a couple lists earlier today. People were throwing up in the Discord that had Phantoms featured. I wouldn't say prominently, but having them as chaff. So that's the way to go.
I think it's a good tool. And since they're heavy infantry, they're on a cav troop base size. So again, gives you some cool options for multi-basing or having a little bit more room to play around than a normal chaff base, since it is a little bit. So let's talk about Mikhail. Maybe that's a good point. So someone brings that. So let me pull him up. So 235, -17, 9 attacks. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, we're looking at sort of Frostfang Lord, right? Territory with the 9 attacks on 3s.
Yep.
With Elite. Crushing Strength 2. Dread is good. Nimble is good. Stealthy is good. Very Inspiring is good. Having the extra attacks against his Sword of Umbra, where you can get him to 12 attacks based on what he's fighting. I mean, I still think he's pretty good. I mean, when you look at him versus the, let's look at him versus the Impaler or the Soulbane on the Nightmare. So you're getting, Soulbane on Nightmare, same size, right? 155 versus 235. So what are you getting for that extra points? You're getting more nerve and fearless. You're getting more attacks. I mean, you get a lot of value for those extra points. I think it's just what's your budget in the list. I don't know. What do you think about this guy, Felix?
Mikhail or the Lord on the
Mikhail?
I like Mikhail. The problem, like you said, can you afford him? Because I mean, he's 235. I mean, he's worth every point you pay. But we're already talking about all these other cool things in the list. It's like, do I have? Can I afford him? So. I don't know. I do like him though. I like that he kind of has a lot of that same flavor that he's had in previous editions, but it's not maybe quite as I guess broken as he was in previous iterations of Mikhail. So
yeah, to me at this pointless, he's just like a solid sort of like the mini dragon or the medium dragon. Not like the muster captain on a winged airles. It's better than that, right? But not as good as a dragon yet. Like that sort of Frostfang area where you do not want him in a flank. You do not want to give a flank to Mikhail because he'll go chompy chomp. But still 235. And one thing that's interesting, and I won't say other thing than to take a look at it, is we do see that the Terror, which is is unit strength 2, which is interesting. We have not seen that in the past, right? Certain monsters are non-units have more than
maybe we could read the tea leaves and it's a sign of things to come.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing to think about.
I'm just saying. I
just can't wait for the Clash of Kings book. I'm super excited.
Yeah. Again, and just like as we said in the top of the show, this list, I think, Felix can speak to it, but what was designed alongside all the other Clash of Kings changes. So again, you won't know the full picture of where the meta might be going, including these guys, until we see the Clash of Kings book, I think.
Right. I mean, even the RC doesn't know, right? I mean, we make some small changes here or there, but until it gets released to the wider, gamer community, we don't know how this stuff's gonna get picked up. Some person might come up with a list out of left field that the playtesters had not even thought about because, we all, like I said, no view without a viewpoint, right? Like everyone comes into list building with their own viewpoints. This is how a good list looks like, or they come with their own metas, We might have some, kid in the Netherlands come up with something that's like, holy crap, we've never seen this before. And just becomes like this crazy list that we have to go back and think of the RC maybe this was not a good combination to have, but we just don't know. So that's what I'm pretty excited for that. I mean, speaking of the upcoming Clash of Kings, I was not as involved in the Twilight Kin updates because I was doing some of the other work that was behind the scenes. But I'm excited to kind of see. I'm looking forward to getting smashed for the first Twilight Kin. First Twilight Kin. Like I'm waiting for someone to kill me with Shadow Hounds. I'm waiting for that. Put that as not a challenge, but as an open bounty on me because I'm still waiting to get murdered by those. So. Whatever, because that was a rule I came up with. So. The Gordrake.
Yeah, the Gordrake is interesting. So it's a speed 8, flying nimble. So again, I think we're seeing in the Twilight Kin this idea that speed doesn't necessarily always have to be, or fly does not always have to be speed 10, right? That maybe in general, that having various different ranges with fly creates some interesting board dynamics. But 190, right? 15, 17, 7 attacks, so a little cheaper. Crushing 2, Strider, Void Caged Beast, which I have to add. I forget what that does.
Being able to reroll 3 misses.
Oh, which was kind of like, they had something like that in the early testing, the idea of having a certain amount of rerolls. So that's nice for like a unit that only has 7 attacks, right? Well, again, it just means you're going to get more consistent production out of those 7 attacks. You're not getting like bonus attacks. You're just most likely going to get those 7 attacks through depending on what you're fighting. So I think it's a great model to, if you're thinking about wanting a centerpiece model, this could be a good option for that.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree that, not having flying automatically means speed 10, I think it introduces a better design space for me, but
yeah, it just creates a little bit more interesting, and maybe then the units that fly that have speed 10, if they become rarer, they become that much more special, right?
Right.
Maybe you're an army that has a lot of fly speed 10, whereas other armies maybe have fly but lesser speed. Yeah, I mean, that is a point to say that, like, if a unit's not 10, it's not consistent with those other flyers. But there's so much when you're thinking about balancing a unit, right? You're looking at How does it balance against other units not in the army? How does it balance within the army that it's in? Internal balance versus external balance. I think there's a lot of factors. So I think just because something's less speed doesn't inherently make it worse than something that's quicker.
Yeah,
I think you got to.
You don't need a speed 10 flyer to combat a speed 10 flyer, right? I don't have any speed 10 flyers in my list.
You can use chaff. There's a lot of ways to deal with flyers besides having flyers of yourselves, but it does make the speed 10 flyers unique or more special in that way, and that if there's not as many of them when they're on the battlefield, they fill a role that other things don't fill. Yeah,
I mean, there's ways to. People haven't figured it out yet, but there's ways.
Yeah, so I think you look at their points, right? I think there's they're paying less points than if they were. I mean, if the Gordrake was speed 10, it'd probably be over 200 points, which maybe you want that version. I mean, I don't know, but I'm just saying it's good in a list to have different points levels, choices for things. Like if you want a flying monster, you have a couple options. You know, you can spend more points and take the Bound Void Lurker, or if you want a cheaper version based on your list design, you can take the Gordrake. So I mean, you have some choices.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen it yet, right? Like, I mean, there's still, now that the list is out, there's a lot of opportunity for people to play against it.
And, I always go back to when we thought, what was the spell? There was like a couple of weeks that it was all about teleporting. What's her face?
Yes, that was it. When it came out, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna teleport a vampire lord or
Lady and it was like,
and then I was like, wait. It sounds good on paper, but in reality, that doesn't actually work.
Yeah, you were gonna. I forget what the name of that spell was, but it was you were gonna. I'm gonna teleport Lady Alona.
Yeah.
Bob's your uncle. I've solved the Da Vinci Code. The Fibonacci sequence has been riddled out, and I'm just gonna teleport her behind the list, behind your lines every game, and I'll win. And that lasted for like 2.5 weeks on UB, and then it just was gone from because people found out like, hey, this doesn't actually work. So you just never know. Like Felix says, until things are released out into the wild, you're just not going to know what's going to get, spread through the sifter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mo brings up a good point, Well, awesome, guys. I don't know what else. Is there anything we missed that we had to talk about?
I mean, I think we covered some initial ideas on what to think about maybe when you're testing your own armies. We've looked at a couple of units that were interesting. We talked about some of the special characters. Yeah, I'm just really curious to see what people come up with in their home brewing and like what lists work, what lists don't work. I think there's a lot of ways you can approach this list, which I think in general is good. I think it has a lot of flavor. It reminds me of, like we talked about in the episode about Mantic 2.0 design philosophy. It's like, what is the sort of shtick of the army? This to me feels like it's got some flavor. It's about messing with you. It's about like, using time and fate and like to mess with stuff, Get Pat, the Clash of Kings book.
Yeah, Pat, they're your worst nightmare. That's what they are. They're coming for you. Looking forward to hanging out with Community Pat at Michigan GT this weekend. Hey, Felix, are you on the list for Michigan GT?
I am, and I already have my round 1 challenge. So,
man, I'm so jealous. I want to go to
Michigan GT. I asked Blake for a list. I was like, well, who's coming? Let me see if I can pull that list up. It was a pretty nice little.
I got Jason Burr for my first round match.
Why would you? Obviously, you had to challenge him. Why would you do such a thing?
I didn't.
Wait, you challenged down? What's going on, man?
I'm not going to make accusations, but
that's a chump move right there, Jason. Chump move.
Picking on poor Felix. Felix, come on, man. He's just like.
Hey, I'm bringing halflings, so maybe the.
Nah, but we got obviously I'm going, Andy Patton's going, but Billy Henniger's going to be there. Eric Reese from Ohio, Donnie Croce, Felix, Kyle Prezolinsky's going to be in the house.
Bringing Twilight Kin, if I remember.
Bringing Twilight Kin. Yeah. Somebody told me a rumor he didn't paint his own army though. What's up with that?
Well, I think he's
I thought his arm worked again.
Yeah.
You got Jeff Franz, Jason Burr, Alec Habig, Frank Habig, let's see, Sean Villamont, Andrew Summers. That's a name we haven't heard in like 3 years.
Who?
That's one of your homeboys.
Who?
Oh man, Adam Ballard, Jesse Berglund, John Becker, Troy Hill, Jason Black, Marshall Temple,
stacked field.
Marcelo,
Marcelo,
Matthew Temple, Kyle Ritchie, Jeff Bodine, Travis Tim. I mean, dude, this is like the 2 years ago when I went, I was like, gosh darn it, this is a tough room. This is worse.
Got even tougher.
Yeah, that sounds like a
I'm looking forward to
Taylor
it.
Brown's gonna be there. I mean, geez,
and in fairness to Jason, you know, he and I, we've known each other for years now, never played each other. So unfortunately, it's just like, unless you leave it up to the chances of fate, we just, again, would have another year of not playing each other. So that's why he figured he was not.
Kyle, that's rookie number. You should have had a contingency plan. I thought you had like an inside line to Mantic.
I still love you, Kyle. They don't understand.
They don't.
They don't understand us.
Yeah, I'm super
it
excited.
Takes us time.
No, we're at 31 players, I think, right now. And, you know, I'm sure there's, you know, some people will hear this and will say, hey, I should make it to Michigan. So, you know, yeah, I can't wait. Those that were
Kyle just sitting there holding nothing, going like, I will paint this thing that
I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun, you know, a lot of fun. And one name that's not on the list, though, there's no Chris Capster this year. What's up with that? I guess the Minnesota boys are like, yeah, and no Jeff Shookin. I don't see on the list either, do I? So that's a disappointment.
Trying to remember. I think they had mentioned why not, but
okay. Well, hey, but there's some good people on this list. I'm really, really excited. Felix, what are you playing? Are you doing all the events or just?
I'm just doing the Kings of War tournament. So I normally can't make it to Michigan because normally I have kids with marching band, and so but they're not doing their senior year for marching band. So I'm like, all right, honey, I'm going to Michigan.
Well, we're glad to have you. This is the 4th 2-day, I think, or maybe it's the 3rd. I can't remember. It's been great. Yeah. It's been growing every single year.
It's been a bad year, bad time of the year for me to go normally, but since I'm free this year, and then my middle child probably do marching band next year.
Now, are you coming? You know who else? Wait, I didn't see. I know Eric Trowbridge is coming, and I know Kyle Poole is coming. I mean, that's what they told us. They drop it out now. He probably saw that Murderer's Row and was like, "Oh, I'll pass."
He might have, yeah. Well, I know. Well, the reason because Kyle just moved back up, so I'm not sure. Money might be might have to build the wife debit account a little bit more before he starts traveling again on weekends. But yeah, I don't know. As for Eric, I don't know.
Yeah, there we go. I gotta play Shannon again and let him time out. That's a trick. That's the only way I beat Shannon Shoemaker.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, okay. I thought I wasn't crazy, Adam. I thought I wasn't crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, so they win Crossroads, and then they're just going to travel as a team now to every tournament.
Right.
And
just there you go.
EP on everyone's
They're going to chipmunk on everybody.
Yeah. Only us. We're the only ones allowed to win trophies. All you guys are just hanging out.
Yeah, so it's if you're in the Midwest and you're within driving distance of the Michigan GT, which is held in Lansing, it's a great event. It's a lot of fun. It's actually a 3-day event. They've got firefight. They're playing all the games, and you get to see Community Pat with the full store. That'll be there as well. Lots of demos, lots of Kings of War, Armada, Firefight, Dead Zone. It's a banner. It's going to be a banner event. And now that we know that Felix is coming, we're all the more excited about it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. Like I said, it's been going on for a couple of years, and I just hadn't been able to go. So I'm like, heck yeah, I'm going now. So.
I should probably just go ahead and challenge Travis just to get my loss out early.
Just get it knocked out of the way, yeah.
Yeah, just get it. Put me down and let me just slowly creep back up. What are you playing?
And all of a sudden you get like Shannon Shoemaker round 2 as your.
Yeah, well, what are you playing? Yeah, I don't have ogres this year, so it's a rough go. What are you playing?
Halflings.
Playing
halflings. Yep. Show you. Not show you, but let's see. What is the name? What did I name my list? Hold on. Generally, that's a bit of a highlight for my list naming conventions. So So it is the where did it go? It is the Felix Castro totally not ripping off UK Clash of Kings 2023 winning list. So that is.
So is it that list basically?
It is 100% that list.
Okay, well, you and Tom
Hey,
are like best buddies now. You guys are like playing the same list then.
Because I'm just like, you know what? It worked for him.
That is such a good list, man. Oh, I played against it just the other night. It is really good.
I'm 0-1 with it, so yeah, maybe. So I figured it was fun. Like it was funny because when he ended up winning, that was the week before Sword of Kings or something like that, and I'd already submitted my lists, and I was just like, oh man, oh no, it was Wildcat. It was the week before Wildcat when he won it, and I was like, I gotta play a different list. I really want to get my hands around playing that style list because I literally just had to paint one unit. I had everything else already done for my halflings. That's how many halflings I have painted up. So,
and this comments from Matt Carmack. So reach out to him on. He loves to be contacted by DM on Facebook.
Oh yeah, ask him all the questions every day.
Ask him all the questions. And it sounds like he's got a fully built test list. On
Kyle too. Kyle is not getting enough messages from all you guys either.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm so guilty of that. I was like, Kyle, how do I buy this model? What unit is it in? When I should probably be looking it up.
I'm excited though. Michigan GT is going to be a heck of a lot of fun. We're coming up. You're coming up Friday.
Friday, yep.
Felix, okay.
Yeah, because I'm riding with Mike Carter.
Mike Carter, yeah.
Running.
Now, is John coming or no?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I think it's just Mike Carter and I grabbing up.
Great.
Rob,
great.
Mama Fanuff, is she
yeah.
What does she have? What are her breakfast plans?
That's we're having the full spread. We're having the pancakes.
Smorgasbord.
Yes. I'm just excited to go home and get good. Not only just Mama cooking, but like all the places. When you grow up, there's like restaurants. Like there's a place called Sir Pizza in Lansing, which is amazing. And so I only get it a couple times a year. But I did find out they have frozen pizzas. So my wife started like, look, on Sunday, make sure your mom goes and gets me 2 frozen pizzas for you to bring home on Monday. So we're working out the details. But we're coming in Thursday.
Okay.
So we'll be up there Thursday night, and then so we'll be around Friday. I know talking to Blake Schrode, the organizer of the event, they're going to be setting up the Mantic booth on Friday, and I think Firefight is Friday night, I believe. Or maybe it's Armada.
I think it's Armada because Mike's running that one, and so that's why we're riding. We're leaving like 8 a.m.
Great. On Friday?
On Friday, yeah. And it's like a 5-hour drive for us. So
yeah. It's about 10 and a half hours. And we lose an hour because we're coming from Central to East Coast time.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to it. And
awesome.
All my homies in Southeast Detroit, got Nathaniel, Nate, and Jason, and all the whole crew. Except for Scott. I'm going to call Scott out. He's not listening. Doesn't matter. But
you're cool. You're cool.
And Scott's not because he's not attending. Yeah. I was a little disappointed that Scott's not making it out. But it's going to be a banner event. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to showing off the new Salamander 2.0, right? Ooh. And then I like it. It came out pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to showing that off. And then who knows?
So
maybe I'll start buying
units, or did you paint an entirely new Salamander army? Because both are realistic in my head.
It's not an entirely new army. It's basically the old army you saw at Adepticon with extra Phoenix, ceremonial guard horde, and our tackle, and then a heavily modified display board than you saw. So it's like that's what I'm calling it. 2.0.
Right, 2.0. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Well, I don't have 10 hordes of Scorchwing, so I'm okay. I only have 2 hordes. I don't have 2 event. I try not to do that.
That's why you build combined arms armies. It means that your army is never totally, completely invalidated.
Ever. No, you just swap a unit out, pull a new one in.
Take a unit out, add something else.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, so if fire elementals are good, I'll all right, let's do that. I'm ready to paint some fire elementals. But yeah, bad guys.
Awesome, fellas.
So pumped.
We'll be doing a Scrying Gems episode around Twilight, and we're going to get Scrying Gems back together when Clash of the Kings comes out. Obviously, we'll do kind of like an initial sense on where we think the meta may be going with Clash of Kings. So stay tuned for that. Good luck at Michigan GT, Rob. We have Refugees of the Old World in 2 weeks, so nice. I'll be going to that, which will be fun with Mr. Stoddard.
Stoddard.
Go for some hot frozen Froyo nightclub action. on Thursday because that's what they do up there.
Well, I learned my lesson. I'm a
refugees
reformed.
country.
I'm reformed. I don't do it anymore.
He only goes with
To be
4.
fair though,
Siege Breaker
my ogre army started in 2016, so it's not like I just painted up a bunch of siege breaker. I mean, I have 6,000 points of ogres, so I mean,
Can't confirm. I did play Rob before the Siege Breaker explosion.
Yeah.
So
We call that the falling down list, or the one bad day list. Where you just are like one, you kind of go like this. And
yeah, well, no, but then what happens is you play Tim Lonis with his wreck and slaves, and he tables you, and you're like,
oh, it just
yeah,
explodes
okay,
on you.
that's a thing. So, all right, sure. I guess 5 hordes of siege breakers may not be as good as I thought. So, it's all relative. Yeah. I can't wait for Clash of Kings, honestly. I'm ready for some changes. I can't wait to see what they do with Salamanders. We've got Night Stalkers waiting in the wings. I have the store downstairs has got, whatever's good. No,
the store downstairs.
The store's downstairs is ready to
the
go.
Room in his
I
house
have been acquiring halflings, and it turns out with all this Twilight Kid stuff, maybe halflings will be
good. I think they're going to make it up a little bit.
I thought about this too.
So.
I think Bale in an Abyssal army would be really good against Twilight Kin. Being able to throw Bale in the middle of those units and saying disordered to shut all that nasty spell stuff down. Anyways, it's all speculation on my part. I haven't actually tried it, so
it's always exciting. There's always that little bit of lull, I think, right before a Clash update, right? And I think we've been in that a little bit. And
I love Ben's comment, because what's funny inside baseball here, we have an episode coming out Wednesday that Jeremy talks a lot about that.
Yes. If you want to hear more about how, like, in Rexburg, the hot froyo partay action, stay tuned to the episode we're going to release tomorrow.
100%, Luke. I mean, it doesn't get much play. Maybe there's this one situation out of 100 where it's going to be useful. Well, awesome,
thanks,
guys. It was a lot of fun. We'll do it again real soon. And for those traveling for the Michigan GT this weekend, we'll see you there. I can't wait to see everybody. And for those going 2 weeks to go into Refugees of the Lower World, best. One final shout out. We do have a new trophy for the Countercharger Award that's coming. So this is all Matt Crozier. And maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm saying it anyways, because I always talk out of turn. He had a trophy sculpted, so it's dope, and it's an STL file people can print. So more to come. He's still playing with it and trying to get it tweaked and stuff, but there'll be more details to come. So anyways, I think that's going to do us tonight.
Yeah.
And until next time, keep countercharging.
Countercharging.